Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a topic that, honestly, is probably going to make you feel really good about your current tax situation. Seriously, after this, filing your 1040 might feel like a spa day. We're going to explore what it was like to be a tax collector in Roman Judea, a job so universally despised, so utterly soul-crushing, that you'll probably just want to curl up and appreciate modern conveniences. Like, not being pelted with rotten fruit every time you leave the house. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere cozy, maybe New Orleans, Louisiana, or a quiet little town in upstate New York, go ahead and drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you all are listening from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are there, in Roman Judea. Specifically in the bustling city of Capernaum, nestled on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. It's the 1st century CE, and the air hums with the scent of fish, the murmur of Aramaic and Greek, and an undercurrent of simmering resentment. You, a local, perhaps even a fellow Jew, are about to step into a role that will forever brand you as an outcast, a pariah, someone lower than the dust on the sandals of the Roman legionnaires. You are about to become a tax collector. Let's not sugarcoat it. Living under Roman rule sucked. Imagine your daily life not just in some abstract historical sense, but in the gritty, suffocating reality of constant oversight and heavy taxation. Every aspect of your existence, from the bread you eat to the fish you catch, is touched by the iron hand of Rome. You feel it in the sandals on your feet as you walk the dusty roads, knowing those roads were built with forced labor and your tax money. You feel it in the worn linen of your tunic, aware that even this simple garment bears the invisible weight of imperial demands. The very air you breathe seems thick with the presence of Roman soldiers, their bronze helmets glinting under the Judean sun, their presence a constant, unsettling reminder of who truly holds power here. It's like living under a perpetual, low-grade fever of anxiety, knowing that at any moment, a legionary could demand your compliance, or a new decree from the regional governor. Perhaps Pontius Pilate himself could add yet another burden to your already strained shoulders. You see the legions marching through the towns, their disciplined formations a stark contrast to the often disheveled local populace. Their very presence speaks of undeniable power, of a system that can take what it wants, when it wants, without apology. It's not just about the taxes, it's about the constant feeling of being a second-class citizen in your own homeland, under the watchful eye of an occupying force that tolerates your customs only as long as you remain compliant and, crucially, profitable. A common historical truth is that Roman rule in Judea was characterized by heavy taxation, military occupation, and suppression of local autonomy, leading to widespread resentment among the Jewish population, particularly regarding the collection of various taxes that funded the imperial administration and its infrastructure. The Romans imposed a complex system of taxes, including land taxes, tributum soli, head taxes, tributum capitis, customs duties on goods transported porteria, and market taxes. This burden was constant, and for many, it felt deeply unjust. It wasn't just money they were taking, it was a piece of your dignity, a slice of your freedom, leaving you with just enough to survive, but rarely enough to thrive. Imagine you were a small fisherman, eking out a living on the Sea of Galilee. Every fish you catch, every basket of produce you bring to market, is subject to a levy. The customs house, probably a small, unassuming booth near the docks or a main road, is a constant choke point, a funnel through which all your meager earnings must pass. You might be bringing in a modest haul of tilapia, thinking about how you'll feed your family that night. But before you can sell it, you have to face the collector, who stands there, tallying, demanding, taking his cut. Sometimes it feels like they're taking more than their fair share. But what can you do? Argue that only invites trouble. A beating from a Roman guard? Or even worse, a forced contribution to the emperor's generosity fund? It's an irritating daily reminder that you are not truly free, that your labor is ultimately for the benefit of an empire far away. It's like trying to run a lemonade stand, but a large corporation has set up a toll booth on your sidewalk, and they decide how much of your profit they get to keep. And you know you're going to get squeezed. Now, let's talk about the specific types of taxes that really ground people down. Beyond the direct head and land taxes, which were assessed based on census records and land surveys, and believe me, those census takers were thorough. There were indirect taxes that felt particularly insidious. You'd have customs duties, porteria on goods moving between regions, like the fish from Galilee being transported to Jerusalem, or even just across a local bridge. Every market transaction carried a sales tax, and there were fees for using public facilities, like bathhouses or even roads. It's a complex web of financial obligations, each one designed to extract as much wealth as possible from the provinces to fund the massive Roman military, its sprawling bureaucracy, and the opulent lifestyle of its elite. You feel like a human ATM, constantly dispensing coins into the Roman coffers. Here's a little-known detail. Ancient Roman tax collection wasn't always a direct government operation. Often, it was privatized to wealthy individuals or syndicates known as publicani, who would bid for the right to collect taxes in a specific region, paying a fixed sum to the Roman state up front, and then profiting by collecting as much as they could, often employing local agents, or publicani in the provinces, to do the actual groundwork. This system, while efficient for Rome, was ripe for abuse, as these private contractors had a strong incentive to extract as much as possible from the populace, beyond what was strictly owed. So, you're not just paying Rome. You're effectively paying a Roman business that's trying to make a huge profit off your daily struggles. It's like a modern-day government outsourcing its parking ticket enforcement to a private company that gets a cut of every fine. And suddenly, everyone in your neighborhood is getting tickets for breathing too loudly. You just know they're going to be aggressive. This practice of tax farming meant that the actual tax collectors you interacted with, the ones who weighed your grain, counted your livestock, and tallied your market sales, were often despised not just for representing Roman oppression, but for being agents of pure, unadulterated greed. They were, in effect, profiting directly from your hardship, their wealth growing directly proportional to your suffering. It introduces a deeply personal, almost vengeful dimension to the common hatred for tax collectors. It's like your landlord not just collecting rent, but deciding the rent, and then deciding to add a sunshine tax and a breathing fee just because they can. And you realize it with a sinking feeling that the more money they squeeze out of you, the more prosperous they become. Historians still widely debate the exact extent to which individual Roman tax collectors, the publicani or their local agents, routinely engaged in systematic extortion and excessive collection beyond legal limits, or if some adhered more strictly to Roman decrees and local customs, suggesting a variation in the level of abuse experienced by the populace depending on the specific collector or region. While the system inherently allowed for exploitation, it's difficult to pinpoint just how widespread the most egregious abuses truly were in every corner of the Roman Empire. But for the person living it, the perceived injustice was very real, and the potential for abuse was ever present. You live in a constant state of fear, wondering if today is the day they decide to arbitrarily increase your levy. You watch as Roman officials, accompanied by their well-armed guards, conduct the census, going door to door, meticulously counting every head, every parcel of land, every olive tree. This isn't just an administrative task, it's the foundation of your future tax burden. You stand there, a knot in your stomach, as they record your family members, your assets, your very existence, turning it all into numbers on a scroll that will determine how much of your hard-earned labor Rome will demand. You see their efficient, dispassionate faces, their eyes scanning your meager possessions, evaluating your worth not as a human being, but as a potential source of revenue. It feels invasive, dehumanizing, Like your very soul is being tabulated for profit. And you can't help but think, is that really necessary for that many cows? Beyond the official taxes, there were always extra demands. Perhaps a local Roman garrison needs supplies, and you're suddenly requested to provide a portion of your harvest, ostensibly for the common good, but without any real compensation. Or maybe a high-ranking Roman official is passing through your town, and the local authorities demand special provisions, forcing you to contribute to a lavish feast or provide fresh animals for transport, all uncompensated. These are the hidden taxes, the unofficial levies that further depleted your resources and reminded you of your utter powerlessness. It's like your city constantly holding spontaneous, expensive parades and sending you the bill directly without asking. And you're just trying to save up for a new pair of sandals, but nope. Here comes another spontaneous military parade. The physical presence of the Roman military itself also drains resources. You see them drilling in the dusty fields, their gleaming armor and sharp pylons a stark reminder of their might. These soldiers need to be fed, clothed, and housed. While Rome funded its legions from central coffers, the sheer logistics meant that local populations often bore the brunt of quartering soldiers, providing fodder for their horses, or offering supplies, often at below market rates, or simply through forced contributions. You're not just paying taxes, you're physically supporting the apparatus of your own subjugation. It's a cruel irony, a constant indignity. And then there's the cultural clash. As a Jew in Judea, your life is governed by ancient laws, sacred traditions, and a deep reverence for your heritage. The Romans, with their polytheistic religion, their imperial cult worshipping the emperor as a god, and their often brutal methods, represent a profound affront to your religious and cultural identity. The taxes themselves, particularly the head tax, felt like a direct imposition on a people who believed their true ruler was God, not Caesar. Paying taxes to a pagan empire was not just a financial burden. For many, it was a spiritual compromise, a form of defilement. This deep-seated spiritual anguish adds another layer to the general resentment, transforming every coin handed over into a small, painful act of perceived betrayal against your own faith. It's like being forced to fund a new statue of a celebrity you absolutely despise, and then being told it's for your own good. You just want to say, can't we build a new synagogue instead? You watch as the marketplace, once a vibrant hub of community and commerce, now feels tainted by the constant presence of tax collectors, their booths strategically placed to intercept every transaction. The joyful haggling over prices, the casual camaraderie among vendors, is often replaced by tense silence and furtive glances. No one wants to draw attention to their meager profits, for fear that the tax collector might decide they owe even more. The very act of economic survival becomes a clandestine operation, a desperate dance to avoid the watchful, calculating eyes of the Roman tax machine. It saps the joy from daily life, replacing it with a pervasive sense of caution and suspicion. This pervasive atmosphere of Roman oppression, symbolized and enforced by the tax system, is the context into which you, our new tax collector, now step. You are not just a financial agent. You are a living, breathing symbol of everything the people hate about Roman rule. You embody the heavy hand, the unjust fees, the perceived sacrilege. You are the face of their daily misery. And believe me, that's a face no one wants to see. It's like being the person who has to tell everyone that free ice cream day has been canceled forever, and then also charge them for the disappointment. This constant, oppressive financial and cultural burden, this pervasive atmosphere of resentment, is the foundation upon which your new job is built. Every day, you will walk into this simmering cauldron of anger, knowing that every interaction, every demand for a few denarii, will deepen the hatred for you. You are not just collecting coins, you are collecting enemies. And in Roman Judea, where zealot movements and calls for rebellion are always just beneath the surface, that's a dangerous collection to amass. Your life is now defined by this heavy yoke, and you are about to become one of its most reviled agents. Now, as you begin your new, ill-fated career as a tax collector in Capernaum, let's peel back the curtain on the actual mechanism of Roman tax collection. This wasn't some efficient, bureaucratic system like the IRS today, where you get a polite or not-so-polite letter in the mail. Oh no, this was far more personal, far more predatory. You weren't a civil servant. You were a cog in a ruthless machine known as tax farming. A common historical truth is that the Roman Republic and early empire often outsourced tax collection to private individuals or companies, known as publicani, plural for publicanus. These publicani would bid for contracts to collect taxes in specific provinces or for particular revenue streams, paying a lump sum to the Roman state up front. Their profit came from collecting more than they had paid, a system that inherently encouraged extortion and corruption. Imagine being told, here's a region. Give us $100,000 and whatever you can squeeze out of the people beyond that is yours. That's the core of tax farming. It's a direct invitation to avarice, a license to fleece, and you, as a local agent, are now standing at the very sharp end of that financial spear. You wake up each morning, perhaps in a modest stone house, far nicer than most of your neighbors, thanks to your burgeoning and deeply resented income. The air is still cool, carrying the fresh scent of the lake and the lingering aroma of last night's cooking fires. But any peace you might feel is quickly replaced by a low hum of anxiety. Your office is usually a small booth or a designated spot at a crossroads, a bridge, or most commonly, the marketplace or a harbor. In Capernaum, it's likely right by the docks, where the fishing boats come in, heavy with the morning's catch. Or perhaps it's at the entrance to the town, where traders bringing goods from Nazareth or Tiberias must pass. This isn't a desk job. You are physically present, always visible, always approachable in the worst way, and always judging. Your tools are simple: a writing tablet, ink, a stylus, and scales for weighing goods, along with a strong box for the coins. But your most important tool, ironically, is your ability to intimidate. You need to be firm, unyielding, and have a thick skin because the hatred directed at you is palpable. Every day is a performance of power, a constant assertion of your right to take, to demand. You see the glares, hear the muttered curses, feel the chill in the air as people approach your booth. It's like being the bouncer at a club everyone secretly despises, but has no choice but to enter. And trust me, nobody wants to give you a friendly high five. The actual grind of the tax collector's work is relentless. You're not just dealing with simple transactions. You're dealing with land taxes. You have to verify the size of fields, the type of crops, the number of olive trees or grapevines. This involves visiting farms, walking through dusty groves, listening to the complaints of farmers who insist their yield was poor this year, or that the last flood damaged their fields, or that their fig trees aren't as fruitful as they used to be. Every excuse is a potential attempt to evade payment, and you're expected to discern truth from deception. It's like being an auditor for the most complex, most unwilling clients. But instead of emails, you're getting dirt under your fingernails and tears in your eyes. And let's be real, nobody's ever happy to see the auditor. Then there's the head tax tributum capitis. This is a personal tax, levied on individuals, usually adult males, sometimes entire households. This involves keeping meticulous records, checking against census lists, and ensuring every single person who owes the tax actually pays it. Imagine going door to door in a crowded, winding alleyway, knocking on mud brick doors, demanding to see the head of the household, then counting heads, verifying ages, and demanding coins from people who barely have enough to eat. You see the desperation in their eyes, the fear, the thinly veiled anger. It's a deeply intrusive process, invading the sanctity of their homes and their personal lives. It's like being a door-to-door salesman for something nobody wants, but everyone is legally obligated to buy, and the product is their own money. And you just know they're going to try to hide someone in the attic. But the real daily grind, the constant maddening drip of small, infuriating sums, comes from the customs duties portoria and market taxes. If you're stationed by the docks, every fishing boat that pulls in, every basket of fish unloaded, every merchant selling their catch falls under your purview. You inspect the goods, estimate their value, and demand a percentage. You might have to weigh bundles of dried fish, inspect barrels of olive oil, or count baskets of fresh fruit. Every item represents a potential source of revenue, and you have to be vigilant. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail about this system is that the specific rates and types of taxes varied significantly across Roman provinces and even within different cities, leading to a complex and often confusing web of obligations for the populace. Which individual tax collectors had to master? This meant that a tax collector couldn't just learn a simple set of rules. They had to know the local customs, the specific exemptions, and the precise rates for every single type of commodity or transaction. It required a keen eye, a sharp mind for numbers, and an encyclopedic knowledge of local commerce. It's like being a chess master, but the rules change constantly, and every piece represents someone's livelihood. And you can bet the locals are trying to bend those rules as much as they possibly can. This inherent complexity, combined with the lack of clear, universal standards, was precisely what allowed for abuse. You, the tax collector, have a degree of discretionary power. Did that merchant really declare all his goods? Is that farmer truly telling the truth about his harvest? You can interpret the rules strictly or loosely, depending on your mood, your greed, or how much you dislike the person in front of you. You can demand a little extra, perhaps a fee for inspection or a late payment penalty, knowing that most people will pay, rather than argue and risk greater trouble. It's a constant dance on the edge of legality, always pushing, always testing. Historians still widely debate the extent to which Roman provincial governors actively encouraged or tacitly permitted the exploitation by publicani, weighing the benefits of guaranteed revenue against the risk of popular uprisings, and whether some governors genuinely attempted to curb abuses, perhaps to maintain stability or for their own political gain. The line between official policy and unofficial corruption was incredibly blurry, creating a volatile environment for both the collector and the collected. You are constantly aware that you are operating in this gray area, that your actions are permitted, if not explicitly condoned, by the powers that be. As long as the money keeps flowing upwards, the daily interactions are often filled with tension. People try to hide goods, to underreport their earnings, to argue about prices, or to simply feign ignorance. You develop a sharp sense for deception, a cynical eye that sees every person as a potential cheat. You learn to spot the slight bulge under a cloak, the nervous glance, the too casual tone of voice. Every interaction is a mini battle of wits, a test of wills. And you know that if you're not vigilant, if you let your guard down, you'll be the one losing money. It's like playing a constant game of cat and mouse, but the stakes are very real, and the mice are quite desperate. And you can bet they're trying to sneak some extra cheese past you. The noise of the market, which once sounded like the vibrant pulse of life, now grates on your nerves. The cries of vendors, the bleating of goats, the endless chatter of buyers, it's all just background noise to the constant counting of coins. The scratch of your stylus on the tablet, and the incessant stream of grievances. You are surrounded by people, yet utterly alone in your profession. No one truly trusts you, and everyone resents you. Even your fellow Jews, your own people, treat you as an outsider, a traitor. Your reputation spreads quickly. You are known, perhaps, as Levi or Zacchaeus, a man who sits at the tax booth, collecting money for the oppressors. Children point and whisper as you pass. Merchants avoid your gaze. Even your own family might treat you differently, accepting your money but perhaps shying away from your presence. The social ostracization is swift and brutal, a constant reminder of the moral compromise you've made. It's like deciding to become a telemarketer for a company that sells really bad vacuums, and then finding out your whole family refuses to talk to you at Thanksgiving dinner. And they're right to do so. The physical toll of the job is also significant. You spend hours on your feet, often in the heat of the Judean sun, meticulously examining goods, counting coins, dealing with endless streams of people. The constant mental strain of vigilance, the stress of potential confrontation, and the emotional burden of being universally loathed wear you down. You might develop a nervous twitch, a perpetually furrowed brow, or an unhealthy pallor from the constant indoor work or the stress of your outdoor duties. It's not just a job. It's a slow, agonizing grind against your body and your soul. And the stakes are high. If you fail to collect enough revenue, if you fall short of the publicanus expectations, you could face severe penalties. They don't care about excuses. They care about their profit. You could be fined, imprisoned, or even subjected to physical punishment. This constant pressure to meet quotas, to extract more and more from a populace that has less and less, fuels the very corruption that makes your job so hated. You are incentivized to be merciless, to squeeze every last coin because your own survival depends on it. It's like being given a sales target, but if you don't meet it, they take your house. Suddenly, being a bit aggressive with the customers doesn't seem so bad. Does it? This system of tax farming, with you at its heart, creates a vicious cycle. The more the publicani exploit the people, the more impoverished the populace becomes. The more impoverished they are, the harder it is to extract taxes, leading to even more aggressive and corrupt practices. This creates a fertile ground for resentment, rebellion, and social unrest, constantly simmering beneath the surface of daily life in Roman Judea. You are not just a tax collector. You are an enforcer of a system that is pushing people to their breaking point. And you feel that pressure, that instability, every single day. You see families struggling, children going hungry, farmers losing their land because they can't pay their taxes. You witness the direct impact of your actions, the tangible suffering caused by the system you uphold. And though you might try to rationalize it, to tell yourself you're just doing your job, or that you're just a small part of a larger system, the faces of the suffering are etched into your memory. This isn't abstract economic theory. This is real human misery. And you are its instrument. The pervasive sense of fear and desperation among the populace also colors every interaction. You might encounter people begging for mercy, pleading poverty, or offering desperate bribes. And you, the tax collector, have to decide. Do you show a shred of humanity, knowing it might cost you, or do you remain cold, calculating and efficient, ensuring your own survival at the expense of others' suffering? The choices are stark, and there's no easy path, no moral high ground to retreat to. It truly sucked to be a tax collector, not just for the people, but for the soul of the one doing the collecting. You are caught in a web of your own making, a web of profit and contempt, forever bound by the brutal grind of the tax farm. You've now spent weeks, perhaps months, as a tax collector in Capernaum, and the relentless grind of the job is starting to wear on your soul. You've mastered the art of discerning genuine poverty from clever evasion, learned to estimate the value of goods with a quick glance, and perfected the unyielding stare that makes people hand over their coins without argument. But the truly awful reality of your position isn't just the endless counting or the dusty roads, it's the burden of unjust fees that you are, by nature of your profession, compelled to extract, twisting every transaction, every interaction, into a moment of palpable resentment and perceived injustice. A common historical truth is that while official Roman tax rates were relatively stable, the privatized system of tax collection tax farming allowed publicani and their local agents considerable leeway to add their own fees, commissions, and arbitrary charges, often exceeding the legally mandated sums. These additional levies, sometimes called super addita additional charges, were the primary source of the collector's profit and contributed significantly to the perception of their corruption and the overall burden on the populace. You weren't just collecting Rome's share, you were collecting your own. And the more you collected, the richer you became. It's like being a meter reader who can arbitrarily decide how much to charge for every kilowatt hour consumed. adding a convenience fee here, a reading accuracy charge there, all for your own personal gain. And nobody can argue with you. Imagine a bright, sunny morning in the Capernaum market. A small farmer, someone you've known since childhood, perhaps approaches your booth. He has a few baskets of freshly picked figs, still warm from the sun, and a couple of plump chickens clucking nervously in a cage. He lays them out, his face etched with a familiar mixture of weariness and quiet resignation. You greet him, perhaps with a curt nod, your eyes already calculating. Officially, there's a market tax. Say, 1/10 of the value of his goods. You quickly appraise the figs and chickens, assign a market value, and demand the standard tax. But then you add it, and there's the inspection fee for ensuring the quality of your produce for the city market. Or perhaps the processing fee for handling fresh goods. Or even more simply, the collection surcharge. The farmer's shoulders slump a little further. He knows these aren't official Roman taxes. He knows you're adding them on. He might protest, softly, respectfully. But Master Tax Collector, my harvest was poor this year. My family needs these few coins. You look at him, your face impassive. The emperor's coffers must be filled, you might say, or these are the costs of doing business. Do you want to sell your goods, or do you want to keep them? The unspoken threat hangs heavy in the air if he argues too much. You could always find a reason to confiscate his goods, or levy an even higher fine. So, with a sigh, he digs deeper into his worn pouch, pulling out the extra coins. His eyes meeting yours with a blend of defeat and silent hatred. It's like watching your friend, who just barely afforded a plane ticket, get hit with an oxygen usage fee and a seat cushion maintenance charge right before boarding. You know it's bogus, but what can you do? This arbitrary addition of fees is your daily bread, your literal livelihood. You learn to invent them on the fly, to justify them with a straight face, knowing full well they are nothing more than a legalized form of extortion. Every transaction becomes an opportunity to gauge how much more you can squeeze. Is the merchant wealthy? Perhaps a higher processing fee? Is the fisherman desperate? Maybe a small, expedited unloading charge will ensure his boat gets to the dock quickly. You become adept at reading people, at sensing their breaking point, at knowing how far you can push before they truly resist. A fascinating yet rarely discussed detail about these unjust fees is that while the Roman state often turned a blind eye to these additional charges, some official Roman legal texts and governors did, at times, condemn or attempt to regulate the most egregious forms of extortion by publicani, indicating a recognition of the system's inherent potential for abuse, even if enforcement was often sporadic and ineffective. This means that theoretically, there were limits. But in practice, those limits were often ignored by powerful publicani who had paid huge sums for their contracts and needed to recoup their investment, and by local agents like you who simply wanted to get rich. So, while you might hear whispers of a governor in Syria cracking down on a particularly ruthless tax farmer, it feels very far away from your daily reality in Capernaum. It's like hearing about a corporate ethics policy from headquarters. But knowing that out in the field, anything goes as long as the numbers look good. And you're out in the field. The psychological toll of constantly engaging in these unjust extractions is profound. You see the resentment, the quiet desperation, the anger in people's eyes. You build walls around yourself, hardening your heart to the pleas and the suffering. You tell yourself they'd do the same if they were in your shoes, or that it's just the way the world works, or that you're simply doing your job within a flawed system. But deep down, a part of you knows it's wrong. Every extra coin you pocket comes with a sliver of someone else's pain, their dreams, their very livelihood. It's a slow erosion of your own humanity, a gradual descent into moral ambiguity. You start seeing people not as individuals, but as walking coin purses, each with a different capacity for being squeezed. Historians still widely debate whether the widespread resentment against tax collectors in Roman Judea was solely due to the economic burden of these fees, or if it was equally, if not more, driven by the profound spiritual and nationalistic offense of paying tribute to a pagan occupying power, suggesting a complex interplay of economic hardship and deep cultural religious indignation. For you on the ground, it's likely both. They hate the money you take, but they hate who you take it for even more. Consider the job of a small artisan, a potter perhaps, who has spent weeks meticulously crafting beautiful clay lamps and vessels, now trying to sell them in the market. You approach his stall, admire his work briefly, then begin your calculations. He's proud of his craftsmanship, his livelihood built on skill and hard work, but your presence immediately drains the joy from his face. You demand your share, adding an arbitrary craftsmanship assessment fee or a kiln usage levy that he never heard of before. He argues, trying to appeal to your sense of fairness, perhaps even mentioning that his children are sick, but your face remains a mask. He pays, his hands trembling slightly as he hands over the coins. You watch him, the light dimming in his eyes, and you feel nothing. Or you try to feel nothing. It's like being a judge in a baking competition. But instead of judging cakes, you're judging how much money you can legally or illegally extort from the contestants for their flour. And you've got a family to feed too, right? The ubiquity of these unjust fees means that trust, a cornerstone of any community, slowly erodes. Neighbors eye each other with suspicion, wondering if one is paying less, if another is getting a deal from the tax collector. Everyone feels victimized, and the tax collector becomes the visible embodiment of that victimization. Your presence in the market, on the roads, by the docks, transforms every honest transaction into a potential trap, every hopeful venture into a calculated risk. The very economic fabric of the community is frayed by this constant, arbitrary financial predation. You learn to live with the glares, the muttered insults, the cold shoulders. You develop a sort of professional detachment, a protective shell that allows you to carry out your duties without being overwhelmed by the suffering you inflict. You focus on the numbers, the quotas, the growing pile of coins in your strongbox. You might tell yourself that this is simply how the world works, that power takes what it wants, and you are merely facilitating that reality. It's a grim philosophy, but it's one that helps you sleep at night, or at least try to. The money, of course, is a powerful motivator. You see the comfortable lives of the powerful publicani in Jerusalem, their lavish homes, their fine clothes, their servants. You see a path to wealth, a way to escape the grinding poverty that most of your fellow Judeans endure. Every unjust fee you collect, every extra coin you squeeze, brings you closer to that dream, that illusion of security and status. You might even justify it by telling yourself that you're simply taking advantage of an opportunity, that if you didn't do it, someone else just as ruthless would. It's a morally corrupting influence, a constant whisper in your ear that more is always better. No matter the cost to others, this wasn't just about the amount of the tax. It was about the process of its collection, the blatant exploitation woven into the very fabric of the system. The unjust fees were a daily insult, a continuous reminder that the power dynamics were rigged against the common person, and that agents like you were profiting directly from their helplessness. It's the arbitrary nature of it, the feeling of being cheated not by law, but by pure, unadulterated greed that truly fuels the hatred. Consider the sheer exhaustion of always being on, always calculating, always guarding against deception, always ready to demand more. You can't relax, not really. Every face is a potential challenge, every conversation a negotiation, every transaction a battle for a few more coins. The weight of this constant vigilance, combined with the moral burden of your actions, creates a profound internal conflict that slowly chips away at your spirit. It's like being a detective whose only job is to find reasons to fine everyone he meets, and he gets a bonus for every fine. You'd probably start seeing violations everywhere. The resentment doesn't just simmer, it sometimes boils over. You've heard stories of other tax collectors, perhaps in smaller, more volatile villages, being attacked, beaten, or even killed by desperate mobs. While Capernaum might be more stable, the threat is always there, a low hum of danger that underscores every interaction. The unjust fees you collect, the wealth you accumulate, paint an even larger target on your back. You are a symbol of their suffering, and symbols can be violently shattered. This constant underlying fear adds another layer to the awful reality of your job, transforming every day into a perilous journey. Every demand into a potential flashpoint, you learn to carry a hidden knife. Perhaps, or to ensure that Roman guards are always within earshot, even if they sometimes turn a blind eye to your more egregious demands. You develop a keen awareness of your surroundings, always scanning for trouble, for the glint of anger in someone's eyes, for the sudden shift in the crowd's mood. Your life becomes a perpetual state of defensiveness, always anticipating the next threat, always ready to protect your ill-gotten gains. The burden of these unjust fees, then, is multifaceted. It's the economic hardship they inflict on the populace, driving them further into poverty. It's the moral corrosion they cause within you, hardening your heart and eroding your sense of right and wrong. And it's the constant threat of violence, the pervasive fear that your greed will one day catch up to you. You are caught in a grim, self-perpetuating cycle where your profit is directly tied to the injustice you inflict. And that injustice, in turn, fuels the very hatred that threatens your life. It truly sucked to be both the instigator and the potential victim of such pervasive injustice. Your hands are stained not just with ink, but with the silent tears of those you've exploited. And you carry that burden, day in and day out, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not. You, our tax collector in Capernaum, are now intimately familiar with the financial burden you impose. The grinding daily reality of extracting unjust fees from your own people. But there's a deeper, more insidious weight you carry, the social scorn and public hatred that permeates every aspect of your life. This isn't just about someone disliking your job. It's about being fundamentally rejected by your community, branded as a traitor, and treated as an unclean thing, someone to be spat upon, literally and figuratively. A common historical truth is that tax collectors in Roman Judea were among the most despised members of Jewish society, often lumped together with sinners and prostitutes in religious and social discourse. Their collaboration with the Roman occupying power, coupled with the widespread perception of their extortionate practices, led to their extreme social ostracism, preventing them from participating fully in religious life and community functions. You are not just unpopular, you are a pariah, viewed by many as having betrayed your God and your people for personal gain. It's like being the most notorious snitch in your neighborhood, but in a time when everyone believes God is watching. And let me tell you, that kind of reputation sticks like super glue. Imagine walking through the narrow, dusty streets of Capernaum on a Sabbath. The air is usually filled with the sounds of families gathering, the quiet hum of prayers, the aroma of special Sabbath meals. But for you, it's a gauntlet. You see a group of men gathered outside the synagogue, discussing scripture, their voices low and respectful. As you approach, their conversation abruptly stops. Their eyes flick to you, cold, condemning. Some turn their backs. Others might spit on the ground near your feet. A deliberate act of contempt and purification, as if your very shadow contaminates the holy ground. No one invites you to join their discussion. No one offers a friendly greeting. You are utterly alone in a crowd of your own people. It's like showing up to a family reunion after you've embezzled from everyone's retirement fund. The silence is deafening, and the judgment is palpable. And you realize, with a sinking feeling, that the potato salad is definitely not for you. This isn't merely inconvenience. It's a profound spiritual and social exclusion. You are barred from certain religious rituals, perhaps even from entering the synagogue for fear of defiling it. Your testimony might not be accepted in a Jewish court of law. Your very presence might be considered ritually unclean. This means you can't participate in the communal prayers, the festive meals, the rites of passage that define Jewish life. You are cut off from the very fabric of your culture, your heritage, your faith. You are a Jew. Yes, but you are no longer of the Jewish people in their eyes. It's a complete spiritual excommunication, a loneliness that gnaws at your soul far more than any physical discomfort. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail about this social scorn is that the deep-seated hatred for tax collectors was so pervasive that it even influenced Jewish legal traditions. Some rabbinic texts and oral laws specifically categorized them alongside robbers and murderers, deeming them unfit to be judges, witnesses, or even to hold positions of trust, reflecting a systematic effort to delegitimize their role and isolate them from the moral and social order of the community. This isn't just popular opinion, it's institutionalized contempt, codified in the very laws that govern your people's lives. It's like being officially designated as the worst person ever in every rule book that matters to you. And you can't even appeal the ruling. You try to ignore it, to brush it off, to tell yourself that their judgment doesn't matter as long as you have your Roman-backed power and your growing wealth. But the constant barrage of cold stares, the whispered insults, the doors that close as you approach, they chip away at you. You find yourself avoiding public places, perhaps doing your shopping at unusual hours or sending a servant to conduct your errands, just to escape the relentless waves of animosity. You might eat alone, even within your own home, if your family has also begun to distance themselves from you, tainted by your profession. The silence, the emptiness, becomes a constant companion. Historians still widely debate the extent to which individual tax collectors genuinely embraced their outcast status and became utterly ruthless, or if some suffered profound internal conflict and regret, perhaps even seeking redemption later in life, suggesting a spectrum of personal responses to their universally condemned profession. While the stereotype is clear, the human reality was likely more complex. But the pressure to conform to the stereotype, to become the villain everyone expected you to be, must have been immense. You wonder if any of your colleagues, the other collectors in nearby towns, ever feel this gnawing emptiness, or if they've simply perfected the art of not caring. Consider the job of a parent trying to raise children in this environment. With you, the tax collector, as a neighbor. Imagine a mother quickly pulling her child away from you as you pass, whispering a harsh warning about those people. Or perhaps children openly taunt you in the streets, having learned from their parents that you are to be reviled. You see the innocence drain from their faces as they learn to fear and despise you, and you realize that even the next generation will inherit this hatred. Your very existence is used as a cautionary tale, a boogeyman to keep children in line. Be good, or the tax collector will get you. It's like being the neighborhood troll that parents warn their kids about, but you actually live on the street and you're actually a person. And you're just trying to buy some bread. The psychological impact of this constant social rejection is severe. You develop a deep sense of paranoia, always expecting the worst from people. You become suspicious, wary, seeing insults and threats in every interaction. Trust becomes a foreign concept, as you know that almost everyone you encounter secretly wishes you ill. You might try to buy friendships with your ill-gotten wealth, throwing lavish parties or offering generous gifts, but the recipients often take the bounty with a thin smile, their eyes still holding that unmistakable glint of disdain. True connection, genuine warmth, seems utterly out of reach, even within your own family. If they choose to remain with you, you feel the strain. Your wife might endure the whispers of other women at the well. Your children might face ostracization at school or in play. Your parents might feel the shame of your profession. Your wealth buys you comfort. Yes, a finer house, better food, expensive clothes, but it cannot buy you respect, or belonging, or the simple dignity of being accepted by your own kin and community. It's like winning the lottery, but the prize is a lifetime supply of bad reviews from everyone you meet. You're rich, but profoundly lonely. The hatred extends beyond mere social snubbing. It manifests in practical ways. If your donkey wanders into a neighbor's field, they might be quick to complain to Roman authorities, hoping to get you in trouble. If you need help with a broken roof, no one offers a hand. If your child falls ill, the local healer might be reluctant to treat them, or might charge you an exorbitant fee, perhaps even more than you would extort from them. You are on your own, isolated by the very wealth and power you've gained. This pervasive animosity creates a chilling feedback loop. The more they hate you, the more you harden your heart. The more you harden your heart, the more ruthless you become in your collections, further fueling their hatred. You become trapped in a self-fulfilling prophecy, becoming the monster they perceive you to be, because it's the only way to survive the constant onslaught of their contempt. It's a truly bleak existence, devoid of genuine human warmth or connection. You're not just collecting taxes, you're collecting a lifetime supply of enemies. The public hatred is so intense that it even finds its way into common sayings and parables. You might overhear people comparing someone disliked to a tax collector, a universal shorthand for a scoundrel, a cheat, a betrayer. Your profession is synonymous with villainy, a living embodiment of everything wrong with the world under Roman occupation. Your name, your livelihood, becomes a curse word, a byword for greed and oppression. It's like being the villain in every story the village elders tell the children at night. And they're not even exaggerating. This complete social and spiritual marginalization, this pervasive hatred, transforms your daily life into a constant, grinding battle for emotional survival. You might retreat into your wealth, surrounding yourself with luxuries that no one else can afford. But even these comforts feel hollow without the warmth of human connection. The laughter from the marketplace, the sounds of families celebrating, they only serve to underscore your profound loneliness. You learn to recognize the subtle shifts in body language, the way people tense up as you approach, the way their eyes dart away, the way their smiles vanish. Every interaction is a reminder of your place, or rather, your lack of place in their world. You become hyper-aware of your own otherness, a perpetual outsider looking in. This constant self-awareness of being despised is a heavy burden, a mental and emotional weight that never truly lifts. It's like constantly being the only person at a party everyone else wished hadn't shown up. And they're not even trying to hide it. The children, especially, are a poignant reminder of your lost innocence. Once, perhaps you dreamed of a different life, of being a respected member of your community, a scholar, a craftsman, a fisherman. But now, the children's innocent, unvarnished hatred reflects the truth of your current standing. They haven't learned to mask their feelings, they simply react to the collective scorn. Their unfiltered contempt is a mirror reflecting the ugliness of your chosen path, leaving you with nowhere to hide from the brutal reality of your social standing. So, as you count your coins at the end of a long, arduous day, the silver feels cold and heavy in your hands. It buys you security, yes, and comfort, but it also buys you isolation, contempt, and a permanent stain on your soul. The social scorn and public hatred you endure are not just unpleasantries. They are the pervasive, agonizing consequence of your profession, a constant, chilling reminder that you have traded your place among your people for the fleeting illusion of wealth and Roman favor. And in Roman Judea, that was a bargain that truly sucked. You, our reviled tax collector, now understand the crushing weight of public hatred, the cold stares, and the profound isolation that define your daily life in Capernaum. But there's another, more immediate terror that lurks beneath the surface of every transaction. Every demand for coins, the peril of violent retribution. This isn't a theoretical danger, it's a visceral, ever-present threat. A chilling reminder that your despised profession could, at any moment, cost you your life at the hands of desperate, enraged citizens. A common historical truth is that the deep resentment against Roman tax collectors in Judea often escalated into acts of violence, ranging from verbal abuse and public shaming to physical assaults, beatings, and even murder. These acts were not isolated incidents, but reflections of the intense desperation and nationalist fervor among a populace that viewed tax collectors as collaborators and instruments of oppression, making their profession one of the most dangerous in the province. You are not just hated, you are a target, a symbol ripe for violent reprisal. It's like being a meter maid in a neighborhood where everyone's car is about to be repossessed. But instead of just getting yelled at, they might actually set your little scooter on fire. And, deep down, that you probably deserve it. Imagine a sweltering afternoon at your tax booth near the Capernaum docks. The sun beats down, making the air thick and heavy. People are short-tempered, exhausted by the heat and the constant struggle for survival. A fisherman, perhaps a young man named Gideon, approaches your booth. His face is grim. He has a small, meager catch today, barely enough to feed his family. You inspect his baskets, tally the fish, and then, as is your custom, add your arbitrary docking fee and freshness surcharge. Gideon's eyes narrow. He pleads, his voice low and strained. "Master Collector, I have nothing more. My nets were torn last night. My children are hungry." You shake your head, unmoved. The tax is the tax. Pay what is due. Suddenly, Gideon's face contorts with a raw, unbridled fury you've seen countless times, but never quite this intense. His plea turns into a snarl. "You bloodsucker. You traitor. You fatten yourself on our misery." Before you can react, he lunges forward, not at your coins, but at you. A wild, a desperate punch connects with your jaw, sending a searing pain through your head. You stumble back, disoriented, the coins scattering from your table. Other merchants, who moments ago seemed passive, now shift. Some watch with grim satisfaction, others with a glint of complicity in their eyes. A few might even cheer Gideon on. The air crackles with unspoken rage, the collective frustrations of years of oppression suddenly finding a single, despised target you. It's like being a referee at a high-stakes championship game, and you make a bad call. And suddenly, the entire stadium isn't just booing. They're throwing their hot dogs and drinks directly at your head. And you realize, with a sickening lurch, that there are no hot dogs where you're going. This isn't an isolated incident. Every single day, you face the very real possibility of such an outburst. It could be a fisherman like Gideon, a farmer pushed to the brink, or a zealous nationalist who views you as the ultimate symbol of Roman tyranny. You learn to carry a heavy staff, not just for support, but for defense. You position yourself strategically in your booth, always keeping an escape route in mind. You develop an almost superhuman sense of awareness, constantly scanning the crowd, looking for the telltale signs of escalating anger, the clenched jaw, the narrowed eyes, the sudden cessation of chatter, a fascinating, yet rarely discussed detail about these acts of violence is that while direct attacks on individual tax collectors were common, organized groups of Jewish rebels, later known as zealots or sicarii, specifically targeted tax collectors and their records as a deliberate act of resistance against Roman authority. Viewing their elimination as a religious duty, this means that you're not just at risk from spontaneous individual rage. You're a legitimate target for highly motivated, ideologically driven groups who see your death as a step towards national liberation. It's like being a government informant, and there's an entire organized crime syndicate actively hunting you down. Not just for revenge, but for the cause. And you know they mean business. Historians still widely debate the extent to which Roman authorities effectively protected individual tax collectors from local violence, weighing the practical difficulties of providing constant security against the strategic necessity of maintaining the tax collection system, and whether some Roman officials tacitly allowed minor acts of violence against collectors to diffuse popular anger, as long as the overall revenue stream remained intact. While you might have Roman guards nearby, they can't be everywhere at once. And sometimes, you get the feeling they don't really care if you get a few bumps and bruises, as long as the money keeps flowing. Their priority is the empire's revenue, not your personal safety. You're a disposable asset in their eyes, Consider the job of a Roman legionary assigned to a tax collection point. You stand there, helmet glinting, spear firmly in hand, observing the tense interactions between the collector and the populace. You are supposed to maintain order, to protect Roman interests, but you also see the poverty, the desperation, the raw hatred directed at the tax collector. You might feel a flicker of sympathy, or perhaps just boredom, as you watch the same arguments play out day after day. If a minor scuffle breaks out, you might intervene, or you might let it play out for a moment, sending a subtle message that sometimes the locals need to blow off steam. Your presence is a deterrent, but not an absolute guarantee of safety. And you definitely didn't sign up for this kind of babysitting duty. The constant threat of physical harm shapes your very being. You become jumpy, prone to sudden starts, always looking over your shoulder. Sleep might be elusive, filled with nightmares of angry faces and raised fists. You might develop a tic, a nervous habit, or a haunted look in your eyes. This isn't just fear, it's a sustained, physiological response to living on the edge. A perpetual state of heightened alert that grinds down your nervous system. Your body is always ready to fight or flee, constantly anticipating the next blow, the next assault. Even away from your booth, the danger follows you. You might be walking home after dark, the narrow alleys silent and dark, when a sudden rustle in the shadows sends your heart pounding. Is it just the wind? Or is someone lurking, waiting for an opportunity to exact revenge? You carry your ill-gotten wealth, a literal target on your back, knowing that you are despised by your own people and only nominally protected by your Roman masters. Every shadow is a potential assailant, every strange noise a sign of impending doom. It's like constantly being in a horror movie, but you're the villain, and everyone in the audience wants you to get got. And they're all carrying pitchforks. The public nature of your job exacerbates the danger. You are known. Your face is familiar. Your wealth, though providing some comfort, also makes you stand out. A visible symbol of what people believe you've stolen from them. You can't simply disappear or blend into the crowd. You are branded, marked for resentment, and that mark makes you vulnerable. It's like trying to live a quiet life after winning the lottery, but everyone knows exactly how much you won and where you live, and they all think you owe them a piece of it. This inherent danger also makes it difficult to form genuine relationships. Who would want to associate with someone constantly under threat of violence? Your few companions are likely other tax collectors, equally despised, equally paranoid, or perhaps Roman soldiers who view you with a mix of disdain and detached amusement. Trust is a luxury you cannot afford, and true friendship seems an impossible dream. You are forced into a solitary existence, surrounded by potential enemies, both seen and unseen. The physical violence isn't just about a punch or a kick. It can escalate. You hear whispers of tax collectors found dead in ditches, or booths set ablaze. The tools of your trade, your scrolls, your scales, your strong box are also targets, as destroying them is a direct act of defiance against Roman authority and a temporary reprieve for the indebted. You live with the knowledge that one day it might not just be a black eye, but something far, far worse. The chilling reality is that your Roman overlords, while benefiting from your services, also view you as expendable. If you are killed, they will simply appoint another tax collector. Your life, your safety, is a mere footnote in the grand machinery of imperial revenue. This realization adds a profound layer of despair to your daily peril. You are a pawn, a tool, easily replaced, without honor in your own community or true value to your masters. It's like being a disposable character in a video game, destined to be defeated by the angry mob, only to respawn as someone else. But you don't get to respawn. So, as the sun sets over Capernaum, casting long shadows across the dusty streets, you secure your booth, double-check the locks on your strongbox, and begin your walk home. Every shadow seems to deepen. Every sound seems amplified. You clutch your staff a little tighter. Your senses on high alert. The day's earnings, a heavy weight in your pouch, feel less like a blessing and more like a curse. a magnet for the very dangers you try so desperately to avoid. The peril of violent retribution is not just a concept, it is the chilling, ever-present reality that defines your every waking moment. A constant reminder that in Roman Judea, being a tax collector truly sucked. You, our burdened tax collector in Capernaum, have faced the daily grind of extortion and the ever-present threat of violence. But as the sun sets over the Sea of Galilee, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a different kind of darkness settles over you, the moral decay and spiritual torment that gnaws at your soul. This isn't about physical danger, it's about the internal rot, the agonizing conflict between your actions and your conscience, leaving you perpetually adrift in a sea of guilt and self-loathing. A common historical truth is that for a devout Jew in Roman Judea, collaborating with the pagan Roman authorities, especially in the act of collecting tribute, was considered a profound religious and moral transgression. Tax collectors were seen as defiling themselves by handling unclean Roman coinage, often bearing the emperor's image. A form of idolatry to some, and by participating in a system that oppressed their own people, leading to deep spiritual anguish and social alienation. You're not just doing a bad job, you're committing a sin, a betrayal of everything you've been taught since childhood. It's like being a devout churchgoer who suddenly starts selling forbidden goods on the black market, and every single sale feels like a punch to your spiritual gut. And you just know the angels are shaking their heads. Imagine yourself, at the end of a long, grueling day, returning to your relatively comfortable home. You sit alone, the lamplight casting long shadows across the room. You open your strong box, the silver and bronze coins glinting dully. These coins represent your profit, your security, the tangible proof of your success in this despised profession. But as your fingers touch them, they feel cold, heavy, almost tainted. You think of the haggard faces of the farmers, the trembling hands of the merchants, the whispered pleas of the poor from whom you extracted these very coins. Perhaps adding your own arbitrary fees, each coin feels less like a reward and more like a symbol of their suffering, a testament to your own moral compromise. It's like counting your earnings from a job where you had to kick puppies all day. The money is good, but the mental images are terrible. And you know deep down, the puppies did nothing wrong. Your conscience, once a clear guide, now feels murky, distorted. You try to rationalize your actions. I'm just doing my job. If I didn't do it, someone else would. Or the Romans would take the taxes anyway, at least this way. A fellow Jew benefits. You might even tell yourself that you are merely surviving, adapting to a harsh reality. But these justifications ring hollow in the quiet of the night. You remember the teachings of the Torah, the emphasis on justice, mercy, and solidarity with your community. Your actions stand in stark contrast to these sacred principles, creating an unbearable cognitive dissonance, a fascinating, yet rarely discussed detail about this spiritual torment is that some Jewish religious texts and traditions of the time implicitly and sometimes explicitly offered pathways for repentance and atonement, even for tax collectors. But these often required restitution of ill-gotten gains and a genuine change of heart, highlighting the profound moral burden and the possibility, however difficult, of redemption within their faith. This suggests that while your profession was condemned, the door to spiritual reconciliation wasn't entirely closed, but the path was arduous and demanded immense personal sacrifice. The knowledge that redemption is possible, but difficult, only adds to the torment because it means the choice is yours. It's like knowing you can finally get a good night's sleep, but only if you spend all night sorting through every bad decision you've ever made. Historians still widely debate the psychological impact of excommunication or ritual impurity on individuals in ancient Jewish society, and whether the internal spiritual conflict experienced by tax collectors was primarily due to personal guilt, social pressure, or a genuine fear of divine judgment, suggesting a complex interplay of internal and external factors driving their torment. For you, it's likely all of them, a crushing weight from every direction. You feel it in the pit of your stomach, the gnawing anxiety that perhaps God has turned his face from you. Consider the job of a priest at the local synagogue, someone you might have once respected or even admired. You avoid his gaze, knowing that he likely views you as ritually unclean, unworthy of the divine blessings. You might yearn to attend the services, to participate in the communal prayers, to feel that connection to God and community again. But you can't. Your presence would be an affront. The spiritual nourishment that sustains others is denied to you, leaving a gaping void in your soul. You are on the outside looking in, observing the rituals of your faith from a distance, like a parched man watching others drink from a spring he cannot approach. It's like being a fan of a sports team, but you're banned from attending any games because you're secretly rooting for the opposing team. And they know. The isolation, as we've discussed, is not just social, it's deeply spiritual. You feel cut off from God, from the traditions that once grounded your life. Every time you touch a Roman coin, every time you levy an unjust fee, you feel a further distance growing between you and your faith. This isn't just about earthly consequences. It's about the eternal, about your place in the eyes of the Almighty. The fear of divine judgment, of being held accountable for your actions in the afterlife, is a constant, chilling companion. You might try to find solace in your wealth, accumulating more possessions, building a finer house, buying expensive food and wine, but these material comforts offer little relief from the torment within. The luxurious fabrics feel rough against your skin. The finest foods taste like ash in your mouth. The most potent wines do little to dull the sharp edges of your guilt. They are empty pleasures, unable to fill the spiritual void that grows larger with each passing day. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes in it. You keep pouring, but it never gets full. And the water is a metaphor for your soul. The dreams, if you even get any undisturbed sleep, might be haunted. You see the faces of those you've wronged, their silent accusations piercing through your defenses. You hear the whispers of condemnation, the echoes of the curses thrown at you in the marketplace. You might even dream of divine judgment, of standing before a holy tribunal, unable to offer a defense for your actions. These nightmares are not just bad dreams. They are the outward manifestation of your internal torment, the mind's way of grappling with the profound moral compromises you've made. The cycle of guilt and self-justification becomes exhausting. You oscillate between moments of profound regret and hardened defiance. Sometimes you might contemplate abandoning your profession, returning the money, seeking forgiveness. But the thought of losing your newfound wealth, of returning to the grinding poverty you escaped, is terrifying. The golden chains of your profession are heavy, but they are still chains. You are trapped. Caught between the lure of worldly gain and the agonizing whispers of your conscience, even your physical health might suffer from this constant moral distress. You might develop chronic stomach issues, persistent headaches, or a general malaise that no ancient physician can cure. The stress, the guilt, the internal conflict, they manifest physically, draining your energy and making every day an uphill battle against your own tormented mind and body. It's like trying to run a marathon with a literal rock in your shoe, but the rock is made of pure, unadulterated shame, and it's getting heavier. This spiritual torment also affects your ability to connect with others on any meaningful level. How can you genuinely trust or confide in anyone when you are constantly betraying your own values? Your relationships become superficial, transactional, mirroring the nature of your profession. You hide your true feelings, your deep-seated guilt, behind a facade of callous indifference, pushing away anyone who might try to get close. You are a solitary island, surrounded by a sea of resentment and your own internal demons. The only people you truly interact with are other tax collectors, or perhaps low-ranking Roman officials. But even among them, a sense of camaraderie is often absent. Everyone is looking out for themselves, suspicious of others, knowing that betrayal is always a possibility in a system built on greed and exploitation. You are perpetually on guard, even with those who share your profession, making genuine human connection almost impossible. This moral decay isn't a sudden event, it's a gradual process, a slow chipping away at your character. Each unjust demand, each harsh word, each stolen coin contributes to the erosion of your ethical core. You become desensitized, hardened, losing the capacity for empathy and compassion that once defined you. The person you once were slowly fades away, replaced by a hollow shell, driven by avarice and fear. So, as the night deepens, and the city of Capernaum finally falls silent, you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, the money in your strong box, the fine clothes in your wardrobe, the comfortable bed beneath you, they offer no comfort. The moral decay and spiritual torment are pervasive, an internal fire that burns relentlessly, fueled by your choices, your greed, and the agonizing realization that you have traded your soul for silver. In Roman Judea, the cost of being a tax collector truly sucked, not just for your life, but for your eternal spirit. You've navigated the treacherous waters of public scorn and wrestled with the demons of moral decay. But as a tax collector in Capernaum, the most chilling reality often strikes in the quietest moments, the isolated life of an outcast. This isn't just about being disliked. It's a profound, gnawing loneliness. A constant reminder that your chosen path has severed you from the very bonds of community, family, and genuine human connection, leaving you adrift in a sea of suspicion and solitude. A common historical truth is that tax collectors in Roman Judea, due to their collaboration with the occupying power and perceived corruption, were systematically ostracized from mainstream Jewish society. They were often excluded from communal meals, religious ceremonies, and social gatherings. And even their families might face stigma, leading to deep personal isolation. You are living on the fringes, always observing, never truly belonging. It's like being the only person at a huge family picnic, but everyone knows you stole the secret family recipe and sold it to a rival. So they smile politely but purposefully avoid sitting anywhere near you. And you just know all the good deviled eggs are at the other end of the table. Imagine a cool evening settling over Capernaum. You see groups of neighbors gathering in their courtyards, sharing simple meals, their laughter echoing softly in the twilight. Children play in the streets, their excited shouts a symphony of innocent joy. You watch from your slightly larger, perhaps slightly grander, house, the one your illicit gains have afforded you. You see families sitting together, sharing stories, breaking bread, connected by bonds of kinship and shared experience. You feel a pang of something akin to envy, or perhaps a deeper, more profound sorrow. You are a silent observer, an outsider looking in on a world from which you are utterly, irrevocably excluded. It's like watching a movie of happy families having fun, but you're stuck outside the theater, just pressing your face against the glass, and the movie is in black and white. This isolation isn't just social, it seeps into the very fabric of your domestic life. Your wife, if she stays with you, might endure the cold shoulders and whispered judgments of other women at the well or in the market. Your children, if you have any, might be taunted by their peers, facing exclusion from games and friendships because of their father's profession. They might come home with tear-stained faces, asking why no one wants to play with them, why they're different. And you, the architect of their misery, have no good answer. The comfortable home you've provided feels less like a sanctuary and more like a gilded cage, trapping you and your family in a bubble of prosperity and profound loneliness. A fascinating yet rarely discussed detail about this social isolation is that while tax collectors were broadly despised, their specialized skills in literacy, numeracy, and Roman administration sometimes made them indispensable, forcing certain limited interactions with officials or even some merchants who needed their services, creating a paradoxical situation where they were both indispensable and utterly reviled. This means that while people might not want to share a meal with you, they might grudgingly seek your assistance with Roman paperwork or trade disputes that require knowledge of imperial law. This transactional interaction only deepens your isolation, as you know their engagement with you is purely out of necessity, devoid of any genuine respect or warmth. It's like being the only person who knows the Wi-Fi password at a party, so everyone talks to you only for that, and then immediately goes back to ignoring you. And they don't even say thank you. Historians still widely debate whether the relative wealth of tax collectors allowed them to form alternative social circles, perhaps among other marginalized groups or less scrupulous Roman officials, or if their isolation was so complete that even significant wealth offered little respite from profound loneliness, suggesting a varied experience depending on individual temperament and opportunities. For you in Capernaum, it might feel like your only true companions are your ledger and your money box. Consider the job of a small shopkeeper in the marketplace, someone who relies on community trust and goodwill for their livelihood. They might offer a kind word and an extra fig to a regular customer, but when you approach their stall, their smile stiffens. Their transactions with you are purely business, cold and efficient. There's no friendly banter, no casual conversation. You are just a customer, and a reviled one at that. They take your coins, clean them perhaps a little too vigorously, and hand you your goods, their eyes already scanning for a more welcome patron. This constant distancing, this subtle yet palpable aversion, is a daily microaggression that chips away at your spirit. It's like being a famous celebrity trying to buy groceries, but everyone working there acts like you're just a random, slightly odorous stranger, and they only accept exact change. This profound lack of genuine human connection fosters a deep sense of distrust within you. You learn to be suspicious of everyone, believing that any seemingly kind gesture is merely a veiled attempt to gain an advantage or to entrap you. You become cynical, seeing ulterior motives in every interaction, hardening yourself against perceived slights. This self-imposed emotional fortress, built to protect you from the pain of rejection, only deepens your isolation, pushing away the very people who might, against all odds, be willing to offer a moment of genuine kindness. Even the Roman soldiers, your supposed protectors and allies, often treat you with a detached indifference, or even thinly veiled contempt. They might protect you from physical harm, but they rarely offer companionship or respect. You are a necessary evil to them, a tool to be used, but not a comrade to be befriended. You are useful, but you are not valued. This constant reminder of your transactional worth, even to those who benefit from your service, reinforces your profound loneliness. It's like being a highly efficient robot that can perform complex tasks, but everyone treats you like a glorified calculator with legs. And you have feelings, the feasts and celebrations that punctuate Jewish life Passover. Sukkot. The myriad weddings and births become painful reminders of your exclusion. You hear the joyful music, the boisterous laughter, the sounds of communal celebration drifting from homes and public spaces. You are outside, forever separate, watching the dance of life unfold without you. The warmth and camaraderie of these events are denied to you, leaving you with an aching emptiness that no amount of silver can fill. You're like the kid who's always picked last for dodgeball, but for life itself, and the ball is always aimed at your head, your wealth, which was supposed to bring security and comfort, paradoxically reinforces your isolation. The more you acquire, the more you stand out from your impoverished neighbors. Your finer clothes, your well-built house, your better food, they are visible markers of your detachment, tangible symbols of the perceived betrayal that separates you from your community. The very things that make your life easier physically make it harder emotionally, creating a deeper chasm between you and everyone else. It's like having a diamond-encrusted car, but no one wants to ride with you, and you have to pay for parking. This isolated life breeds a unique kind of despair. You might yearn for acceptance, for a simple word of kindness, for a moment of genuine human warmth. But you know, deep down, that you have forfeited that right. The choices you've made, the pain you've inflicted, the contempt you've earned, they are an invisible wall around you, impenetrable and unforgiving. You are a prisoner of your own making, trapped by the consequences of your ambition and greed, the silence of your own home. When you return after a day of confrontation, can be deafening. Without the chatter of friends, the warmth of communal meals, the easy rhythm of accepted social interaction, your thoughts become your sole companions. And often, those thoughts are dark regrets, self-recrimination, anxiety about the future, and a deep, pervasive sense of loneliness. You might find yourself talking to yourself, or to your ledger, just to break the suffocating quiet. This emotional and social starvation can lead to a kind of psychological hardening. You might become more ruthless in your collections, caring even less about the suffering of others, as if to prove that their rejection doesn't bother you. This becomes a defense mechanism, a way to cope with the pain of isolation by embracing the very qualities that caused it. You become the villain everyone expects, not because you were born evil, but because the world relentlessly pushed you into that role. It's like being a supervillain who started out just wanting to be loved, but then everyone hated him. So he just decided to lean into the whole evil genius thing. And now he has a really cool lair. So, as the stars begin to pepper the vast Judean sky, and the sounds of Capernaum fade into a gentle hum, you are left alone with your thoughts. The lamp burns low, casting your solitary shadow on the wall. The coins in your strong box offer no comfort, for they are the currency of your exile. The isolated life of an outcast is not merely a consequence of your profession, it is its very essence. A profound and agonizing emptiness that truly sucked the warmth and light from your daily existence, leaving you to drift in a sea of your own making. You, our isolated tax collector, have felt the sting of social scorn and the chill of spiritual torment. But in your line of work, there's an almost irresistible current that pulls you deeper into the darkness bribery, corruption, and temptation. These aren't just abstract concepts. They are the pervasive daily realities that not only define your profession, but also constantly test your character, offering lucrative shortcuts at the cost of your integrity, and drawing you into a morally treacherous landscape from which escape seems nearly impossible. A common historical truth is that the Roman system of tax farming, being privatized, inherently fostered an environment ripe for corruption. Publicani tax farmers and their local agents like you had immense power to demand more than was legally owed, leading to widespread practices of bribery, both offering and accepting, extortion, and embezzlement. This was often an unofficial but tolerated aspect of the system, as long as the guaranteed revenue reached Rome. You're not just able to be corrupt, the system almost demands it of you. If you want to truly profit, it's like being given a license to run a toll booth, but the unwritten rule is that you should charge triple the official rate and pocket the difference, and everyone knows it. And if you don't do it, you're considered a fool. Imagine a sweltering afternoon at your tax booth in Capernaum. A wealthy merchant, a man with fine robes and a swagger that suggests his business flourishes, approaches with a donkey laden with bolts of expensive linen, spices from the east, and perhaps some fine pottery. You begin your assessment, mentally calculating the official customs duties, which would be a significant sum. But before you can declare the amount, the merchant leans in, his voice low, a knowing look in his eye. "Master tax collector," he begins, "these goods are for a special client. Perhaps we can expedite the process for a small fee, of course, directly to you." As he speaks, his hand subtly slides a small, heavy purse across the counter, filled with more silver than the official tax itself. This is a bribe, and it's not an unusual occurrence. You look at the purse, then at the merchant's expectant face. You could refuse, insist on the full official tax, and make him go through the proper, tedious process of inspection and assessment. But then you'd lose the substantial, untraceable silver in the purse, and he might just take his business through another, more accommodating collector's territory next time, costing you future revenue. The choice is clear: uphold a vague sense of honesty and lose money, or accept the bribe and enrich yourself, all while making the merchant's life easier. You pick up the purse, the coins clinking softly, and your face remains impassive as you wave him through with a curt nod. "Next time, bring me a fresh fish, too." You might say a small, dark joke. It's like being a traffic cop, and a fancy car pulls you over, and the driver just casually hands you a wad of cash with their license. Do you take the cash and let them go? Or write them a ticket and watch them drive off to find a more flexible cop down the road? You're essentially running a private express lane for the rich. This is the seductive allure of temptation. Every day brings opportunities for bribes, for extra charges, for bending the rules in exchange for personal gain. A farmer might offer you a portion of his harvest to declare a lower yield. A fisherman might offer you his finest catch to overlook a few extra fish in his boat. A traveler might offer you a gold coin to bypass the official toll on the bridge. These temptations are constant, varied, and often incredibly appealing, especially when you compare the paltry official commission to the enormous sums you can earn through illicit means. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed detail about this corruption is that beyond individual bribes, larger-scale corruption often involved complex networks where powerful publicani would collude with Roman officials to manipulate tax assessments for entire regions or industries, creating a vast, systemic web of illicit financial gain that extended far beyond the local tax booth. This means that the petty bribes you accept are just the tip of a massive, submerged iceberg of systemic corruption. You are a small fish in a very, very dirty pond, and the bigger fish are far more powerful and far more ruthless. It's like working at a local branch of a bank, and you find out the entire corporate structure above you is involved in a massive, elaborate money laundering scheme. You're just moving some small change around, but the whole system is rotten. Historians still widely debate whether the Roman state's tolerance of publicani corruption was a calculated risk, a necessary evil to ensure revenue collection in distant provinces, or if it gradually eroded the empire's moral authority and contributed to its eventual decline, suggesting a complex long-term consequence of short-term financial expediency. The effects of this corruption ripple outwards, poisoning not just individual lives but potentially the very stability of the empire. You on the ground. Just see the immediate profit and the immediate danger. Consider the job of a wealthy landowner who has vast fields of grain and olive groves. He might approach you, not with a paltry bribe, but with a complex proposition, a substantial gift to ensure his land is consistently undervalued in the tax assessments, saving him massive sums over the years. This isn't a one-time thing, it's an ongoing arrangement, a tacit understanding that you will protect his interests in exchange for a continuous stream of illicit income. This kind of arrangement draws you into a deeper web of complicity, making you an active participant in large-scale tax evasion. Not just petty extortion. You become an accomplice, bound by mutual interest to powerful, unscrupulous individuals. It's like a powerful tech CEO offering you a consulting fee to make sure their company pays absolutely no taxes for the next decade. And you suddenly find yourself with a surprisingly comfortable, ethically questionable and new income stream. The moral slippery slope is steep and fast. What starts as accepting small gifts quickly escalates to demanding them. You become more brazen, more confident in your ability to extract extra funds. The line between what's legal and what's corrupt blurs until it disappears entirely. Your conscience, already dulled by the contempt of others, becomes even more muted as the allure of wealth takes over. You begin to see every interaction not as a service, but as an opportunity for personal enrichment, a chance to take advantage of someone's desperation or eagerness. This pervasive corruption also means you have to be constantly wary of being double-crossed. The merchant who offered you a bribe might later accuse you of extortion if it suits his purpose. The powerful landowner might decide you're no longer useful and arrange for your downfall. You operate in a world where trust is a liability, and everyone is looking out for themselves. You learn to keep meticulous, hidden records of your illicit dealings, not for official purposes, but as leverage, as insurance against those who might try to expose you. It's like being a spy, but everyone around you is also a spy, and no one can truly be trusted, and your life depends on it. The temptation to embezzle from the Roman state itself is also ever present. After all, you collect the money. Who's truly checking every single denarius? You could declare a lower sum than you actually collected, siphoning off a portion for yourself before sending the rest up the chain to the publicanus. This is a riskier game, one that could lead to severe punishment if caught, but the potential rewards are immense. The thought nags at you, a constant whisper of even greater wealth, even greater power. Just a single dangerous step away. This culture of corruption is not just external, it becomes internalized. You start to think of money as the ultimate measure of worth, the only true source of power and security in a brutal world. The pursuit of wealth becomes an addiction, a relentless drive that overshadows all other concerns. You might neglect your family, your health, your few remaining social connections, all in the tireless quest for more. The gold glints in the darkness, a mesmerizing beacon that pulls you further and further away from the light. The fear of exposure is a constant companion. If your corrupt dealings come to light, either through an investigation by a Roman official or a desperate complaint from an aggrieved citizen, the consequences could be dire. Imprisonment, severe fines, confiscation of all your property, even execution. This fear adds a sharp edge to every bribe accepted, every illicit deal made. You walk a tightrope, balancing immense personal gain against the constant threat of total ruin. It's like being a high-wire artist, but the wire is covered in grease and someone keeps throwing bananas at you. And the audience actually wants you to fall. So, as the sun beats down on your tax booth, and the whispers of illicit deals fill the hot air, you are constantly making choices. Do you take the bribe? Do you demand an extra fee? Do you skim a little off the top? Each decision drags you deeper into the moral mire, reinforcing the corrupt system that birthed your profession. The temptations are too great, the rewards too alluring, and the risks, while present, often seem distant compared to the immediate gratification of more silver. This environment of bribery, corruption, and temptation truly sucked the integrity out of your daily life, leaving you adrift in a sea of your own making, forever stained by the glittering, tainted allure of illicit wealth. You, our tax collector in Capernaum, are now deep in the mire of corruption, burdened by the hatred of your people and constantly aware of the threat of violence. Yet, there's one last cruel deception that constantly lulls you into a false sense of security, the illusion of Roman protection. You cling to the idea that the mighty empire, whose coins you collect and whose authority you enforce, will always be there to shield you from the wrath of the populace and the dangers of your profession. But as you'll soon realize, that protection is fickle, conditional, and ultimately an empty promise. A common historical truth is that while Roman authorities generally upheld the tax collection system and punished direct threats to it, their protection of individual publicani or their agents was often pragmatic rather than absolute. Minor acts of violence against collectors might be overlooked, or responses delayed, if they didn't significantly disrupt revenue flow or threaten wider Roman control. The empire's primary concern was its own stability and income, not the personal safety or well-being of its often despised collaborators. You are a tool, and tools can be replaced if they break. It's like being a security guard for a powerful company, but you realize they'll let you get roughed up a bit if it means avoiding a bigger problem. And they've got a whole line of new recruits waiting. And you just know they'll prioritize the bottom line over your kneecaps. Imagine a tense day at your tax booth. A heated argument erupts with a group of disgruntled fishermen who claim you've overcharged them for their morning's catch. Their voices rise, growing more agitated, and their hands clench into fists. You feel the familiar surge of fear, your eyes darting towards the street where Roman legionaries usually patrol. You see two soldiers, their armor gleaming in the sun, casually strolling past, their gaze seemingly fixed on the horizon, or perhaps a particularly interesting donkey. They hear the commotion, the angry shouts, but they don't quicken their pace. They glance over, their expressions unreadable, then continue on their way, deliberately giving you enough space to handle the local disturbance yourself. They are present. Yes, a symbol of Roman power, But their protection is not immediate, not personal. It's a distant, indifferent shield. It's like calling for help during a robbery. And the police car just drives by slowly, waves and yells. Good luck with that. This tacit permission for minor violence, this deliberate delay in intervention, serves a purpose for the Romans. It acts as a pressure release valve for the local population, allowing a tax collector to suffer a few bruises, or even a public humiliation, can sometimes diffuse wider resentment, preventing larger, more organized rebellions. Your personal discomfort is a small price to pay for maintaining imperial stability. You are expendable, a sacrificial lamb in the larger game of Roman control. It's like being a punching bag for a frustrated boxer. You absorb the blows and the crowd cheers, and the coach just nods approvingly. A fascinating yet rarely discussed detail about this illusion is that Roman law, while theoretically offering protection to all citizens and those under its Pax Romana, could be selectively applied based on political expediency. A powerful publicanus in Rome might secure swift justice for an attack on his agents, but a less connected local collector in a volatile province might find official response slow, or even absent, if their plight didn't directly threaten Roman order. This means your degree of protection isn't universal. It depends on your connections, your influence, and how much political trouble your situation might cause for the Roman governor. You're not just a tax collector. You're a pawn in a much larger, often deadly political game. And you're on the lowest rung? Historians still widely debate the effectiveness of Roman legal recourse for individual tax collectors who suffered violence or financial losses in the provinces, and whether the bureaucracy and distance from central authority made justice slow and often unattainable, suggesting that while the laws existed, their practical application was often severely limited. For you, on the ground, justice feels like a distant concept, a privilege reserved for the truly powerful, not for a despised local agent. You can't just sue someone in small claims court for a bruised ego and a stolen pouch of coins. Consider the job of a Roman official's clerk, meticulously recording petitions and complaints. You might, in desperation, attempt to file a formal complaint about an assault, hoping for Roman justice. You spend hours meticulously detailing the incident, describing the faces, the insults, the physical blows. The clerk listens impassively, takes your statement, and files it away. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months. You hear nothing. No arrests are made. No justice is served. You realize that your petition, like so many others from the locals, has simply disappeared into the vast, indifferent maw of Roman bureaucracy. Your suffering is not a priority. Your complaint is just another piece of paper in a mountain of similar grievances. It's like sending an email to a giant corporate customer service department and getting an automated reply that says, "Your concerns are very important to us. Just not important enough to do anything about." And you just know your email is going straight to the spam folder. This lack of reliable protection fosters a deep sense of vulnerability. You might have Roman authority theoretically behind you, but in the immediate, gritty reality of the street, you are largely on your own. You learn to rely on your own wits, your own strength, and your own ruthlessness to survive. The belief that the Romans will always swoop in to save you quickly evaporates, replaced by a chilling understanding that your personal safety is ultimately your own responsibility, and a very precarious one at that. The powerful Roman presence, which once felt like an unshakable shield, now feels more like a distant, sometimes indifferent, shadow. The legions are there to maintain general order, to suppress large-scale revolts, and to ensure the overall flow of tribute. They are not your personal bodyguards. They will not chase down every angry farmer or punish every muttered curse. You are left exposed, a lightning rod for the populace's hatred, with only the occasional, often too late intervention from your supposed protectors. This illusion of protection also extends to your wealth. You might believe that your Roman connections, your collaboration, will safeguard your ill-gotten gains. But Roman law itself could be a double-edged sword. If you are accused of excessive extortion by a powerful Roman citizen or official, or if your actions become too destabilizing, the same Roman system that enabled your wealth could just as easily strip it away. Your property could be confiscated, your family ruined, all under the guise of enforcing justice. You are always at the mercy of larger powers, and your precarious wealth is never truly secure. It's like being a minor gangster who thinks he's untouchable because he works for a big boss. But then the big boss decides you're bad for business and cuts you loose. And suddenly, all your friends disappear, and you realize with a sickening thud that those friends were actually just waiting for you to fall. Consider the job of a Jewish zealot leader, orchestrating acts of resistance against the Romans. They see you, the tax collector, not just as an individual, but as a crucial component of the Roman machinery. Disrupting your collections, destroying your records, or even eliminating you is a direct blow against the empire. They are not deterred by the distant threat of Roman reprisal. In fact, it fuels their resolve. They might study your movements, observe your routines, calculating the best moment to strike, knowing that if they act quickly, the Roman response might be too slow to save you. Your perceived Roman protection is merely a challenge to them, an invitation to demonstrate their defiance. The chilling reality is that you are caught between two worlds, truly belonging to neither. You are rejected by your own people, and only conditionally accepted by your Roman masters. This liminal existence means you are vulnerable from all sides, without a true anchor, without genuine loyalty or unwavering protection. You are alone, a solitary target in a sea of resentment, and the only real protection you have is your own cunning and the luck of avoiding the next desperate attack. So, as you walk the streets of Capernaum, the distant sound of Roman sandals on the cobblestones might offer a momentary sense of reassurance. But that feeling quickly fades. You know that those soldiers are not there specifically for you. Their presence is a backdrop, not a shield. The illusion of Roman protection is a cruel joke, a whisper of safety that dissolves into the harsh reality of your daily peril. In Roman Judea, relying on that protection truly sucked, leaving you perpetually exposed, always a target, always alone. You, our Capernaum tax collector, have traversed the brutal landscape of your profession, the suffocating Roman yoke, the ruthless grind of tax farming, the burden of unjust fees, the pervasive social scorn, the peril of violent retribution, the gnawing moral decay, the profound isolation, the constant temptations of corruption, and the hollow promise of Roman protection. Now, as the sun truly sets on your narrative, we confront the final, crushing weight, a legacy of infamy. This isn't about what happens to you personally. It's about the indelible stain your profession leaves on history, a testament to how universally despised your role was, solidifying your place in cultural memory as a symbol of betrayal and avarice, far beyond the confines of Roman Judea. A common historical truth is that the figure of the tax collector publicanus, or mokes in Hebrew Aramaic, became synonymous with corruption, exploitation, and betrayal across various ancient cultures, particularly within Jewish tradition, where they were depicted as sinners and outcasts in religious texts and popular narratives. Your job didn't just earn you contemporary hatred, it cemented your place in history as a villain, a byword for greed and oppression. It's like being the person who invented spam email, but everyone remembers you for it for centuries, even after email is long gone. And you just know your name will be used as a curse word in future history books. Imagine your name, perhaps Levi or Zacchaeus, spoken generations later, not with respect or even indifference, but with a sneer, a dismissive wave of the hand. You are remembered not for any personal qualities, any acts of kindness, or any familial ties, but solely for your profession. Your legacy is defined by the coins you collected, the arbitrary fees you imposed, and the faces of the suffering people from whom you extracted tribute. You are frozen in time as a symbol of the oppressive Roman system, a willing participant in the subjugation of your own people. Your name, once perhaps associated with a respectable family, is now shorthand for moral depravity. It's like being remembered only for that one embarrassing thing you did in high school, but for all of eternity, and it's taught in history classes. And there's no way to delete the internet. This isn't just a localized phenomenon. The Roman Empire spanned vast territories, and wherever tax farming was employed, similar figures emerged, earning similar disdain. From the bustling markets of Alexandria to the distant shores of Britannia, the tax collector was universally reviled. This means your infamy isn't confined to Capernaum. It's part of a broader imperial narrative of exploitation and resistance. You are part of a global phenomenon of hatred, a fascinating yet rarely discussed detail about this legacy is that the enduring negative portrayal of tax collectors in historical and religious texts, particularly the New Testament, significantly shaped Western cultural perceptions of bureaucracy and financial authority for centuries, embedding a deep-seated distrust for those who collect taxes, regardless of the system or era. This means that even today, when someone complains about taxes, a tiny, almost subconscious echo of the ancient Judean tax collector resonates in their disdain. You, a historical figure, unwittingly became part of a timeless archetype of the disliked revenue agent. It's like being a character in a classic novel who everyone remembers as the villain, and your name becomes synonymous with villainy. And there are no royalties, just endless scorn. Historians still widely debate whether the overwhelmingly negative portrayal of tax collectors in ancient sources accurately reflects the average behavior of all individuals in the profession, or if it was an exaggerated stereotype perpetuated by those who resented the Roman occupation and the economic burden it imposed, suggesting that some tax collectors might have been more scrupulous than their historical reputation suggests. But their individual conduct was overshadowed by the systemic nature of their role. However, for those living under their thumb, the stereotype was their painful reality. Consider the job of a future historian looking back at Roman Judea. Sifting through ancient texts and archaeological findings, they piece together the daily lives of the common people, their struggles, their beliefs, and inevitably, they encounter the figure of the tax collector. They read accounts of the people's hatred, the accusations of extortion, the stories of their social ostracization. You are not a hero or even a nuanced character with complex motivations. You are a symbol of oppression, a necessary evil, a figure of scorn. Your story is told as a cautionary tale, a grim reminder of how power can corrupt and how collaboration can lead to infamy. They don't write songs about you. They write angry pamphlets. The very language used to describe tax collectors in historical accounts is laced with contempt. They are greedy, unjust, sinners. This persistent negative labeling solidifies your place in collective memory as something less than human, an embodiment of avarice. Even if individual acts of kindness or moments of regret ever occurred in your life, they are erased by the sweeping brushstrokes of historical condemnation. Your personal narrative is subsumed by your infamous profession. It's like being an athlete who broke every record, but also cheated in every single competition. So no one remembers your skill, just your dishonesty. And there's no Hall of Fame for cheats. This legacy of infamy extends beyond mere historical texts. It infiltrates religious narratives, becoming part of the moral fabric of a culture. In the New Testament, tax collectors are explicitly linked with sinners and are often depicted as the antithesis of righteous individuals, only gaining salvation through profound repentance and a complete renunciation of their profession. This powerful religious condemnation ensures that your infamy isn't just a matter of historical record. It becomes a spiritual lesson, a warning against the corrupting influence of worldly gain. It's like being the bad guy in a religious parable that gets told for thousands of years, and everyone knows exactly who the villain is. And it's you. The impact of this long-lasting infamy is that your actual human experience, the nuances of your daily struggles, the pressures that led you to this path, are largely forgotten. You are reduced to a caricature, a one-dimensional villain, stripped of your humanity by the weight of historical judgment. The individual decisions, the moments of moral struggle, the fleeting temptations, they all disappear behind the monolithic reputation of the corrupt tax collector. Your children's children, if they exist and are aware of your past, might carry the stain of your name. Even generations removed, the association with that tax collector could linger, a shadow over their family legacy. The choices you made for personal gain echo through time, leaving a mark not just on your own life, but on the potential lives of your descendants. It's like having a distant relative who was a famous criminal, and every time your last name is mentioned, someone brings it up. And there's no witness protection program for historical reputations. So, as the centuries turn into millennia, and the Roman Empire fades into the annals of time, your figure, the tax collector of Capernaum, remains. Not as a hero, not as a complex character, but as a chilling reminder of the dark side of power, the perils of collaboration, and the enduring human cost of greed. Your legacy is one of universal disdain, a testament to a job that truly sucked the life, the dignity, and ultimately the good name from all who dared to pursue it. The echoes of that contempt still reverberate today, ensuring that the awful reality of being a Roman tax collector remains an infamous chapter in the grand, sleepy story of history. As we gently drift from the echoes of ancient Judea, let your mind ease into the present moment. Feel the comforting stillness that surrounds you, the soft hum of the night, or perhaps the gentle rhythm of your own breath. The weight of history, the struggles of the past, now recede like distant waves upon a shore. Allow yourself to release any lingering tension, to soften your shoulders, and to gently close your eyes. In this quiet space there are no burdens, no judgments, only the soothing embrace of slumber. Let the last thoughts of ancient struggles dissolve into the peaceful currents of your mind, guiding you toward a restful sleep. Good night.